Welcome to school, the place where you sit at a desk questioning your entire existence and why you're even there. However, in the confusion, you do run into a lot of cool people, weird people, make new experiences, and most of all, figure out what it means to be a half-decent human being. Part of figuring out what makes a decent person, though, is through your teachers. Growing up, teachers practically play one of the most, if not the most important roles in a child's life. Like, you don't even realize it, but niggas are spending most of their development years with their teachers. They're damn near co-parenting you at this point. Then you get a little older, and you're not in school anymore. When you finally realize half of the beliefs they were instilling in your brain and putting you through made absolutely no sense at all. Like, I remember being hella young. Like fucking first, second, third grade type of young. Back then, you couldn't just be late. Like if school started at 9 a.m. and you pulled up to the building at 9:01, you couldn't just simply go to class. Fuck no. Instead, you had to now go to the front of the building and buzz your ass in because the doors were now locked. After waiting outside freezing your ass off, they finally let you in. Only to then have you wait in a long ass line full of all the other niggas who were late just so you could get a dumbass late slip. This late slip ain't even do anything, by the way. It was literally just a way to keep a record of how many times you were late in their system. As if they were what? Gonna fucking kick you out the damn school? After waiting an additional 15 minutes in that line, only making you even more late, you finally reach the front, where the secretary only now thinks it's the perfect time to look you square in the face and say, "Why are you late?" Because the fucking 8-year-old is going to be able to come up with a feasible response, as if they even know what the hell is going on in the first place. Like, anytime I got asked this dumbass question, I had two responses. 1, no response at all. 2, I don't know. She would then proceed to exaggerate her disappointed expression on her face while she prints my late slip. She ain't even put it in my hand, she just left it on the table, and I had to take it and walk out. It's now been 20 minutes since school started where I'm finally walking to class, and the anxiety you would feel walking into the class late should have been a fucking crime. Like after putting your bag away, you could either get lucky and the door was already open, allowing you to low-key just stroll in, or the door is locked and now you have to knock. And when you do, all eyes are on you. Then when you finally get in the class, you have to slowly perform the walk of shame while the teacher's talking and hand her your late slip and then go sit down. Why the fuck was this even a thing? After this happening enough times, eventually your primary school teacher will pull you aside and tell you that this is not gonna slide in high school. Then you get to high school, and the building doesn't actually lock in the morning, so when it's time to get to class, you can just walk there regardless of what time it actually is. However, when you get to your classroom door, it will be locked. And when it is, you will have to knock. In this situation, you had two types of teachers. The one that fucked with you and would just let you in as they didn't mark attendance yet, or the one that hated and despised everything regarding your existence, so they would signal you through the window to go get your damn late slip. Now you're walking back to the office where there's another line. However, it's not as long, and most importantly, no one gives a fuck. Like by the time you reach high school, it becomes more of a nuisance to go get a damn late slip because no one actually gives a fuck. Like your teacher doesn't even want the late slip. They literally just make you go get it just to piss you off even more. And similar to the first situation, eventually your teacher will pull you to the side and say, hey, like when you get older in college, this is not gonna slide. Then you get to college, and the concept of being late doesn't even exist, considering by this age, barely anyone even shows up. There's no such thing as being late in college. It just quickly turns into you show up when you show up. If you show up at all. Despite everything you've been taught up until this point, you quickly realize it only actually matters if you have a lab or an exam. And even then, niggas were still late to that shit all the time. Then you finish college, and you're now in the real world where you learn people are still late to literally everything. Like appointments, work, fucking hangouts with your friends. Nobody is on time to anything anywhere. Like for some reason, school plants this idea that if you are late, Medusa's gonna fucking spawn in and just turn you into stone. And then you get older and you realize how unnecessary any of this fucking shit was. The entire education system heavily fixates on the idea that the better grades you get, the better student you are. I'm sure everyone remembers that one nigga that would deadass start crying because they scored a 98 out of 100 and missed by 2 fucking points. Those fucking dickheads. Obviously, you should aim to get good grades. Like, don't be that nigga who just flunks absolutely anything and everything. But I learned being that person who always aimed for 100% was probably one of the dumbest things you can do of all time. Like, the amount of stress, anxiety, unnecessary fucking fatigue that goes into trying to maintain a perfect grade, especially at the age of 16, is just completely unnecessary. There was always those kids who sacrificed their youth for the sake of grades, only to get older and then realize they have damn near experienced practically nothing. The amount of people I grew up with that did a complete 180 the other direction, this shit started young too. Like elementary school, they were averaging 95s, then high school came and they didn't even go to class anymore and would just fucking play with themselves or smoke all day. crazy. Then the high school to college jump appears, and this one's terrifying because for the first time these niggas have a little bit of freedom from their parents, and so you just watch these people start doing everything the niggas who weren't on a leash in high school were doing. Then I was in college and it became normal to get 50s and 60s in my damn engineering program, and if you got 70s, niggas thought you were fucking cheating. Like, I'm talking, it didn't matter if it was a quiz, an assignment, a fucking exam. Every nigga's always wishing for a fucking bell curve. The year is 2025, and unless you're trying to become a doctor, lawyer, or a goddamn brain surgeon, your grades do not matter at all. Like, most jobs do not give a fuck about your education, they just want you to have experience. No employer ever asked me what grade I got in my network administration course in my final year, or my fucking grade for data structures and algorithms using Java. They simply just do not give a fuck. Like, school created this belief that your grades matter so much when in reality, no one actually cares. I'll never forget when one of my elementary school teachers saw my name on the honor roll list for fucking 9th grade when visiting. And then she said, "Oh wow, I'm surprised you made it this far." What the fuck? And looking back at it, school also had this major fixation on the need for memorizing literally everything. Like, this was one of the core reasons niggas were so against school. Why the fuck did I have to memorize the definition for the most niche word only located in chapter 6, page 5 of my history textbook? Or remember when you had to do mental math or even regular ass math equations without the use of a calculator? What? Like, I deadass remember some teachers telling me in life you aren't always going to have a calculator, therefore you should be able to solve things without one. Yeah, fucking right. By the time I got to high school and even college, teachers started looking at you like you had the fucking bubonic plague if you walked into that damn exam room without your damn calculator. I'll never forget the time one of my boys tried performing a calculus exam in college without his damn calculator. That shit was so bad, 40 minutes into the exam, the professor actually recognized he didn't have one and literally said he can leave the exam and go find one if he needs to. He declined the offer anyways, proceeding to fail the exam. Granted, he knew the calculator wasn't gonna save him, he didn't fucking study, but that just shows you how bullshit of an idea it was to make niggas do math without a fucking calculator. It just didn't make any sense at all. Or even how some of the studying schemes worked in general. Like, I remember growing up, they forced niggas to study literally all of the course material, and school quickly just becomes a game of memorization. Then by the time you get to college, you notice two things. One, you have much more open book exams. Two, most of your exams actually let you have a cheat sheet. So you can just imagine how much info niggas were putting on those damn sheets. Then you get to the real world and you learn that if you're ever genuinely confused, you can literally just search the internet for an answer or simply just fucking ask someone. Like, school made it seem like you need to have absolutely all 226 lecture slides or fucking pages in your notebook memorized on the most niche topics, because when you get a job, they're gonna make sure you can recite all of it, only to then realize that if you don't know something, you could just search for it. This shit is not an ongoing exam. You're allowed to not know things. In fact, it's legitimately impossible to know everything. You're always gonna have to be learning. Like, this is one of the prime reasons why hella employers wouldn't even give a fuck about your education to begin with, because it's strictly just theory and memorization. You'll notice actually applying and learning things are always two completely separate ball games. But school teaches you otherwise. If you fail to memorize the concepts and recite the answers bar for the exam review questions, you're now considered a failure, or better yet, a bad student. How does that make sense? And don't even get me started on due dates. Like, looking back at it, when you're younger, due dates shouldn't even exist. In my elementary school, you couldn't even fail. A lot of my niggas caught on to this and just said fuck it and then never handed anything in. Teachers would be talking about some, yeah, this is due next Friday. And we would all just look at each other and just try not to fucking laugh. They always used to tell us in high school the teacher isn't going to chase you for assignments, or this isn't gonna slide in high school. Then niggas got to high school and teachers wouldn't even chase, they would hunt you for that damn missing assignment. By the time you got to college, you might get like one professor who will give you a 0 if you hand something in late, but all the other fucking 20 of them will just deduct a percentage based on how late it was. And even then, I still knew profs that hunted students down for assignments to try to help them out so they don't fucking fail. Because newsflash, it's actually a lot more work to fail a student than to pass them, because they gotta now fill out a bunch of paperwork they do not want to fucking fill out. And once you get to the real world, those due dates are now for projects, meetings, and all that fucking bullshit, but they just become delayed or pushed back like the date never even fucking mattered. It just was not that serious. Like, all in all, school made it seem like it was the end of the world if you weren't the perfect student or fucking person. You gotta get hella good grades, never be late, always hand things in on time, blah blah blah. But none of it actually ever mattered. I know hella people that barely finished high school and are doing just fine. I also know people that graduated college and are doing even worse. There's no rules in this game of life. And it's so interesting how, looking back, there was just these grown-ass people telling a bunch of kids and teenagers they suck because of how they acted in school. I mean, you tell me, do you think any of this shit actually matters the way they say it does? Or is it just another way of playing fear tactics to try to morph you into the individual they really want you to become? I gotta cut this shit off because I'm starting to sound ridiculous.
Piss that, piss that, piss that.